Oh, guys, this is nuts. It is over for the Secret Service. It's over for Biden and possibly Harris. So Trump is going after them big time. There's newfound evidence that there is a paper trail of multiple requests, multiple denials for the added protection for President Trump, and they were all denied. This is huge. This is literally, I think, the straw that breaks the camel's back. We have more info that has come out that the Trump campaign is working to get the new indictment dismissed because it violates a policy by the DOJ. So this is super explicit. Trump has now said to Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, if you interfere in the 2024 election like you did in 2020, I'm going to send you to prison for life. This is huge. And we also got some other breaking news with the Kamala Harris's interview. Guys, I love it. The truth is finally coming out. Want to thank all the members of the channel and the newest member, Walter Russell Jr. Thank you for joining us, supporting the channel. If you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does help to grow the channel. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. And also, let me know. I keep seeing where our subscriber count is really fluctuating, going down and up. So if you're being unsubscribed, please let me know and I'll address it with YouTube. And just want to say thank you to everybody that supports the channel and blesses our family with the super chat donations. It means the world to us. We're here to serve you and give you all the breaking news. So thank you. Let's jump right into it. This is huge, huge news that you need to see. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
Right now, we can't believe anything they tell us.
No.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley on the Judiciary Committee is here now. So what are these whistleblowers continuing to tell you, Senator?
More whistleblowers.
Well, Jesse, what new whistleblowers tell me is that the leadership of the Secret Service told the agents who were advancing the Butler rally not to request additional manpower. They said the same thing to the campaign. So this directly contradicts, by the way, what the Secret Service director told Congress. He said, oh, we never denied a manpower request. Well, what the whistleblowers say, Jesse, is they told him ahead of time, don't request more resources, don't request counter snipers, because if you do, we will deny it. Jesse, this is a lie. I mean, what the director told Congress is a lie. We need to know, why are these guys lying to us and what are they hiding?
You know government and how it works. Why would they say ahead of time, don't request this because we're not going to give it to you? Because they didn't want a paper trail?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think they wanted to be able to say what the director did say to Congress misleadingly, oh, we never technically, formally denied anything. Of course, that's because they told them in advance, don't request it, because if you do, we won't give it to you. This was an attempt to hold down the resources. This was an attempt to deny counter snipers. Remember, they only finally got counter snipers to come on the day, Jesse. Earlier, they had said no counter snipers would be available. Can you imagine what would have happened if there had been no counter snipers at all?
No. This is so huge that they only got counter snipers, the ones that took out the assassin, on the day of the Trump rally, because they didn't even know if they were getting them. If they didn't have that, Trump might be dead right now. Mark that. This is what they're fighting against. This is the new evidence. Trump said it's over. I'm going after them. They knew. He even mentions it in another thing that I got for you.
I can't, and I don't want to imagine that. And weren't they supposed to get 4 counter sniper teams, but they only got 2?
That's right. And there was supposed to be what's called the Counter Surveillance Division. They're present, Jesse. They're the ones who are usually due a site advance. They identify problems in the security perimeter. Whistleblowers tell me that they didn't get to do the advance because, again, Secret Service leadership denied it. We need the facts here, because the more we learn, the worse this gets.
Do you understand why you'd turn down a drone? If someone was offering you from the locals a free drone, you didn't have to pay for it. You just had to say, sure, I'll take it. Why, knowing that there was a possible attempt from the Iranians, would they say no drone?
It makes absolutely no sense, and they know it doesn't, Jesse, because on the day after the assassination attempt, the Secret Service went right back to the local police provider who offered them the drones and said, oh, please, 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 can we use them now? Wow. So it turns out they did need them. Obviously, they needed them. We can all see that. their refusal to put them in the air ahead of time, it's just inexplicable. It's totally inexplicable.
Lastly, who actually fired the kill shot that
Patty Ains just put, chat and said they should be brought up on charges for endangering President Trump's life. President Trump actually said today that, hey, look, he hinted at it. He said, look, this actually falls under Biden-Harris. They knew, and they are the ones who have the final call, and I'm going to be digging more into this. He said, it's over. I'm done with this. There's too much evidence, too many whistleblowers. Something has to change.
neutralized crooks? Was it from a Secret Service counter sniper rifle, or was it one of the local counter sniper guys?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if we know the answer to that. We know that there were multiple counter sniper shots fired. Exactly. Well, for the same reason we don't know still, why wasn't there a Secret Service counter sniper on the roof of the AGR building where Crooks was? Why weren't law enforcement guarding the perimeter of that building as their plans called for? None of that happened, and we still don't have any answers. And Jesse, nobody has been fired for this.
All right. Well, I hope these whistleblowers continue.
And all this is coming through whistleblowers. All this is not coming from the Secret Service. You think that's crazy? What you're about to hear takes it to the next level. This is bombshell news you're about to hear. Check it out.
Let's go. Everybody ready? Saddle up. Buckle up your seatbelts. I've got some information for you. Media people, get your pens out. As the great Rush Limbaugh, the inimitable Rush Limbaugh used to say, let your show prep begin. So the first thing I want to throw out there is not necessarily new, but I've been working on this for a long time, and a number of people have reached out to me about this. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Secret Service is going to have a big problem with the current narrative about Donald Trump, which is, you know, we didn't really deny security assets in Butler County, Pennsylvania, but we may have denied just a couple things to President Trump in the past. Media folks, get the pens out. That is absolute bullshit. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you how I know this, but the Secret Service is a big problem now. The big problem they have is that the Secret Service isn't the only one who knows about the multiple repeated requests for security. Now, this is something I've been working on for a long time, and some of the people we've been working with are not necessarily even inside the entity themselves, but I've got to be careful here. I'm just telling you this. If you are concerned about a January 6th type thing where they delete the texts and emails, remember that story about the pipe bomb? Long story short, Secret Service supposedly misses this pipe bomb. Kamala Harris, the DNC, the texts and emails magically disappeared. The Secret Service, we don't have them. We did a tech transfer. It's going to be almost impossible this time to do the same thing. Nothing's
100%.
impossible. I said almost. But it's going to be really hard. There is a documented, very long, very detailed paper trail of numerous people requesting pretty significant security enhancements to President Trump that were what? Denied.
Denied.
People in the Secret Service, what did they do? If you're listening on audio, Guy, what am I doing right now? We are using the mannequin doll hand middle finger. That is what managers at the Secret Service told the Donald Trump detail, despite numerous people saying President Trump is likely to get hurt or maybe worse if you do not give us these security assets. Counter-assault teams, technology enhancements, CSU, other things I can't talk about, and Secret Service headquarters, yes, including acting director now Ron Rowe, who was part of it, were like, I don't think so, double-barrel middle finger. Now, again, media folks out there, not the good ones, the Susan Crabtrees and others out there, but the leftist media hacks who choose to ignore the guy who beat you by, what, fellas, 3 years on this story? You can ignore this all you want. Be like, who are his? It doesn't matter. I'm never going to tell you who my multiple sources from multiple entities.
Guys, we know that Dan Bongino is connected big time.
Are, because I don't do that. I'm going to tell you, I've been right about everything and you've been wrong. Folks, there's a paper trail. You'll figure out later what I'm talking about. And it's a digital and paper trail that cannot easily be deleted. Here's a second piece of information that you probably haven't heard yet.
This is huge, guys.
Remember the story I told you about a year ago that Secret Service agents and multiple security personnel told Secret Service headquarters folks, we cannot secure Mar-a-Lago like this. This is our protectee. We are obligated to protect him. We need this. And what did they say? They said, managers told them, we don't secure social clubs. Really? What if a social club owner decides to run for president? You're going to give him the middle finger? We don't secure. Is that really in 18 USC 3056? The part of the United States Code that obligates the Secret Service to protect former presidents and presidents? Does it say asterisk? Have you guys ever read it? Jim, do me a favor, look that up. Is there an asterisk in there that says not nightclub, social club owners? If it says that, let me know. I never read that. I've never seen that in 18 USC 3056. Never seen it. So they told them no. But later, because the Secret Service chooses to constantly be a reactive agency and not a proactive agency, which, guys, chat folks, help me out here, okay? The McGroin crew and everyone else. If you are in the security business, especially EP, executive protection, trying to keep someone alive, Justin, let me throw this out at you. You think it's a better idea to be proactive and prevent a threat, or let a threat attack your guy and then react afterwards? What do you think?
I'm telling you guys.
He's going to say, Justin's his college education's working well for him. He says it's probably better to be proactive and do things beforehand so people don't get attacked. I'm telling you that's not the way the Secret Service thinks. The management, not the guys in the field. Guys I work with were great. They wait for something to happen, and then they do something.
And then they take action.
I want you to look back at this story here. This is very, very important. Very important. A lot of people in the media miss this. Something happened in 2023. Put up that CBS 12 News piece. This article is important. Man wants to talk to Trump. Was arrested for trespassing at Mar-a-Lago. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even going to tell you how bad this situation really was, but let me just tell you, it was bad. The intrusion part, not necessarily the threat. You may be saying, well, Dan, aren't they the same thing? No, they're not. If someone intrudes in your house and is drunk and thought it was his girlfriend's house and says, I'm sorry, I leave, the intrusion's really bad, but it wasn't really a threat, correct? May have been disturbing, but it wasn't a threat.
Listen to this.
However,
is crazy.
If someone barely gets into your house, is kicking in the door and has an axe and is ready to kill you, they may not have intruded totally, but it was a threat. The intrusion portion of this is bad. Like bad. So, of course, people in Secret Service headquarters, diapers were full. Why do you think diapers were full in January of 2023 when there was an intrusion at Mar-a-Lago? Some of you are picking up on this. What do you guys think? Maybe because multiple people asked repeatedly in a detailed paper and digital trail for more assets to protect against the very specific way this guy got into Mar-a-Lago, and people at headquarters were like, we don't secure social clubs. There it is. Thank you. I didn't even know you guys were going to post. 18 U.S.
Hey, Brenda Crothers, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, thank you, Joel. Thank you, Joel. Once on organs, all you do. God bless. Love your channel. Thank you so much. Hey, show Brenda some love in the chat, everybody. We thank you so much for these blessings. Is this not crazy? All this that you're hearing was all by design.
3056. Can you scroll down? Yeah, so you put search for nightclub, social club, and there is nothing in there, correct? Okay, thank you. So there is no exception for that. It's good to know. Thank you, Jess. I didn't know. I worked in the Secret Service. I thought I may have missed it or something like that. Folks, a lot of folks miss this story. This is, again, another example You better start writing about this now and asking questions. Did that have anything to do with later security enhancements that happened at Mar-a-Lago only after you had egg on your face and realized that the security enhancements you denied before were some of the ways this guy got into Mar-a-Lago, and then you were like, oh shit, we better do it now?
So like everything that's coming out, this is where Trump said, I'm done. It's over. I'm going to go after them because they let people come after me. They let people get into my home. They had an axe. I mean, it was crazy trying to kill me. There's been multiple people that have been trying to assassinate Trump. All the requests that they had were denied. Trump said, I'm done with it. We're going to go after everybody that was in charge because they're the ones that denied our request. Even though we know that there was people out there trying to take out Trump.
There's a paper trail, folks. It's all going to come out. Mark the date. Wait. Flags in the chat. Flags in the chat. Flags in the chat right now. Want to see them? Get them up. There we go. Thank you on the show. Flag it. Flag the time. Flag the date. When this all comes out, you'll thank me. I've only been telling you this story for years. Of course, the mainstream media won't write about it because it's the Dan Bongino show, and we constantly beat the mainstream media. Thank you, folks in the chat. Love you. But this is why we are the biggest live stream in the United States. And
hey, Kurt Wenzel, thank you so much for the super chat. Guys, y'all are so awesome. Kurt, everybody show some love to Kurt as well in the chat.
We beat everyone. MSNBC, CNN, Fox, everyone, every single day.
What we're seeing is the actual truth. Like Senator Josh Hawley is actually a part of the team that is investigating this. Now, Dan Bongino was just in front of the forum that Hawley is managing. So what we're finding out through all these whistleblowers is that Trump knew, the Trump team knew, and they requested, they were denied, and it all comes from the top. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. This is huge. This is where Trump said, hey, I'm done. It's over. I'm going to make sure that these people are held accountable. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section because this is huge. Not only on that, but what you're about to see here. Because again, too, the more and more that this comes out, we are seeing that they're doing everything they can to try and stop Donald Trump. And it's just getting crazier and crazier. Check it out.
But it looks like Jack Smith doing more of what he does, which is filing these absurd lawsuits in an effort to influence the election. He should be ashamed of himself, and it's one of the reasons why we have to win, because he should not be anywhere near power.
Okay, that was J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, accusing Special Counsel Jack Smith of election interference. Joining us now, RNC co-chair Lara Trump. Lara, wonderful to see you again. Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. So, Lara, what was the reaction inside the Trump campaign when you all heard Jack Smith was still pursuing the classified documents case and the January 6th case against former President Trump? I mean, there's Justice Department norms of no DOJ action within 60 days of an election.
Right here.
It's 9 days away to early voting.
Yeah, well, should this surprise anyone? No, of course not. Look, I think before you went to commercial break, you're talking about the fact that you had the Supreme Court ruling that the student loan bailout was unconstitutional, and the Biden-Harris administration couldn't do that, and they're going to go right ahead and they're going to try and do it anyway. They seem to thumb their nose at the Supreme Court, and they don't really care what is told to them. They're going to go ahead and do whatever they please, and I think that's what you're seeing here. And I think when you heard Senator J.D. Vance there talk about election interference, that's what this is. There is no doubt about it. Of course, the goal here.
Let me know in the chat. Let me know, y'all. Does this qualify? You just heard them. They're not supposed to do any new indictments, no new cases from the DOJ or anybody within 60 days of voting elections, and we're 9 days away from early voting. They just did this. This is where Trump said, hey, we're going to go after them for this as well. They keep trying to break the law to come after me.
To throw mud at Donald Trump yet again, to try and in the eyes of the American voter, look like something nefarious is going on. Maybe they can't vote for him. Maybe they should reconsider voting for Donald Trump. But I actually believe that the inverse of the intended is happening. And you saw it happen in the Alvin Bragg case in downtown Manhattan. Coming off of 34 felony counts, Donald Trump saw a bump in the polls. He saw epic and record-setting fundraising. And I think that the same will apply here. The American people need to be able to trust their institutions. And whenever they see that it looks like they are trying to put their thumb on the scale of an election, it is very concerning to the American people. And I believe they're going to push back.
So there's that, too. And what do you say to voters out there who are still upset about January 6th? Because we're seeing possibly Nancy Pelosi leaking footage to go after Trump from that day. I mean, criticism is, he didn't respond fast enough to the riot. He said he issued 2 tweets and a statement to stop it, starting within a half hour of the riot. And he offered the National Guard the days before the riot, but it was refused. We showed HBO footage, Nancy Pelosi admitting responsibility for not having the National Guard to protect the Capitol building. But what do you say to voters still upset about that day?
Well, let's be honest. This is what the Democrats have been running on for several years now. They have known that they had a weak candidate in Joe Biden. It's why they ushered him right out of this race and plugged Kamala Harris in. They have tried to get people to get worked up about January 6th. Donald Trump that day said peacefully and patriotically make our voices heard. To your point, he offered the National Guard to Nancy Pelosi. It was on her shoulders to accept it, and she decided not to. There is no evidence whatsoever to have any indication that Donald Trump had anything to do with what happened.
Exactly.
They have tried to make it the #1 concern of the American people. The problem is that the American people can barely make ends meet in the Biden-Harris days. And they know that the 3.5 years they've had with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in the White House will be even worse if they put Kamala Harris in as president. They're worried about putting food on the table, paying for gas, their national security, a southern border wide open, while Kamala Harris, as much as she wants to deny it, was the border czar for the past 3.5 years. That is the main concern of the American people. And I think when push comes to shove, people at the end of the day go in a voting booth and they know who made their life better, not harder. It was Donald Trump. So try though they might to shove this down the throats of the American people. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be their #1 concern.
People go into the voting booth and say they vote on saying to themselves, what are you going to do for me? I mean, they're running still on January 6th. And not Bidenomics. I mean, it's the same 4 charges that Jack Smith is reviving. That basically he's trying to keep it in line with the Supreme Court's ruling, reinforcing that former President Trump does have presidential immunity. And they could still cover the charges Smith is again bringing. I mean, Jonathan Turley also pointed out Trump's communications with Mike Pence, members of Congress, all covered by the immunity ruling. Let's listen to J.D. Vance on this. Watch what he says.
And yet, Jack Smith tried to redefine Mike Pence as from the vice president to the running mate, as if somehow changing those words in an indictment undercuts the fact that Mike Pence is still the sitting vice president, and it still directly implicates the president's official acts. The reason the Supreme Court threw out his lawsuit is because they said it implicated the president's official acts, of course, which the president has immunity in conducting those official acts.
Yeah, and Justice Clarence Thomas of the Supreme Court and Judge Eileen Cannon says his whole office is unlawful and unconstitutional to begin with. He was never confirmed by the Senate, and he's getting appropriated congressional funding that Congress never signed off on. So when you look at your internal polling inside the Trump campaign, what are voters saying about all this?
Well, so far, like I said, I think that we've seen the history of these sorts of things actually go to favor Donald Trump. That whenever they see this one man being continually attacked, 4 indictments, a mugshot, my gosh, an assassination attempt against him, people start to look.
I mean, we're literally at the point, I believe, let me know your thoughts in the chat, where people are like, are you serious? Again, y'all are still trying to go after, even though the Supreme Court said he had immunity. Like, I feel like people are getting fed up. I've got a clip to show you it's so hilarious because even people like Jon Stewart are flipping their position and going after the DNC, the Democrats, for their hypocrisy.
And they say, if, the big government people are against this guy, maybe I want to join up with him. And while we don't have polling on this exact thing because it just happened, I believe that is going to be reflected in the next round of polling. I believe the fact that you have Kamala Harris on the other side, who has yet to sit down for an interview, has to have, a safe space and her running mate to be with her for any sort of a sit-down interview coming up, is going to reflect very poorly on her. What the people care about in this country is the economy, is our southern border, is crime through the roof, is, our standing on the world stage. And they know who can deliver that for them, who did it the first 4 years he was in office. It's President Donald J. Trump.
Larry,
big time.
Were you, just final question, when you saw the Democrat National Convention, not a word said about the assassination attempt that almost took the life of former President Trump. Nobody said anything about it.
They didn't even mention
what was
illegal
the word
immigration
inside the campaign about that?
Yeah, I think it's egregious. I mean, it's sort of disgusting. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. And no matter what they try to say about Donald Trump, he too is a human being. He's an American. He put his life aside to run for president the first time. He's put his life literally on the line this time. It would have been nice to have some acknowledgement of that. But the fact that their entire convention was about emotion, vibes, and hating Donald Trump, it's probably not surprising that they didn't mention it.
Lara Trump.
They mentioned Donald Trump more than anything else, more than immigration, more than inflation, more than anything. It was all about Donald Trump. And this is something funny, actually, from that Jon Stewart said about the DNC, because it's very hilarious to the point now where it's just the hypocrisy is right in your face. Check it out.
They had a guy yelling, "Screw the billionaires," followed immediately by a very happy billionaire.
Look at these people.
It's all okay if it's our billionaire. I don't like billionaires, but he's all right. They had guys making fun of people for going to Yale, and a bunch of people who went to Yale. The Democrats had people who prosecuted sexual predators and...
I'm telling you. Do y'all hear that crowd? Like, the hypocrisy is just literally in front of our faces. We're literally living like in the Twilight Zone, where this crowd, this is a Jon Stewart crowd. This is not no MAGA team. This is not a RNC convention. This is not a Trump rally. They're laughing at the hypocrisy of what? The Democratic Party trying to gaslight American people and trying to just in their face try to lie to them. And I've got this clip. We've got a clip for you in just a moment, but listen to what they have to say about this, because the more information we get, the more we're like, Trump, he's right. When he said it's over, it's over. He's going to go after them. They need to be held accountable for this.
With an election right around the corner and the first ballots going out in North Carolina in just 9 days, yes, before the debate, we are getting an August surprise. Special Counsel Jack Smith has again indicted former President Trump in the election interference case. The 4 charges in the original indictment have not changed, but Smith just reframed his case after the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity. Trump is flat out calling it election interference at its worst and referencing the DOJ's 60-day rule.
And that's what he's going after them for. They're already talking about lawsuits, suing them and all that, because this is 100% so close to the election, breaking the law.
Discourages new legal action before an election. His running mate, J.D. Vance, backing him up.
It looks like Jack Smith doing more of what he does, which is filing these absurd lawsuits in an effort to influence the election. The reason the Supreme Court threw out his lawsuit is because they said it implicated the president's official acts, of course, which the president has immunity in conducting those official acts. I don't think that it changes anything legally. I think it's clearly an effort to try to do more election interference from Jack Smith. He should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah. But it seems some in the media are cheering it on.
It is a slick move.
But because of the slow nature of our justice system, this is a conversation we are still having.
I will say the 60-day rule is not actually a rule. It's a norm. It's a practice.
It's not written in law. It's not something that is written in stone. It's a policy, a guideline of sorts. Nothing has changed to the actual text.
So tell me, what is the difference between a policy and a rule? It's things you follow. It's standards that are set. But now it's like, oh, it's slick. It's okay because it's against Donald Trump.
Once a case has begun, once the prosecution has commenced, it can continue to do so up through and including and beyond Election Day.
Judge, she said it wasn't a rule, it's a norm, and I thought we were going to return to norms.
Yeah, well, not only that, it is a rule. It's 9/85.500. Federal prosecutors and agents may never select the timing of any action, including investigative steps and criminal charges, for the purpose of affecting an election or for the purpose of giving an advantage or disadvantage from one side to the other. Let me explain something.
There's
Whether
literally
it's 90
rules
days or
against this
60
election
days,
interference.
This has been a rule that every attorney general has affirmed and reaffirmed since George Bush, the first one, was president, okay? They do it all the time to try to make it clear to the American people that when the feds come in, whether to announce an investigation or an indictment, that they're not going to do it in a way that will interfere with an election or make a candidate look good or bad. Now, there was no legal reason whatsoever to bring this case right now, given the fact that it's not going to go to trial before the election. So what was the point? And I don't want to hear this nonsense about this is a continuation of the other case. If it's a continuation of the other case, then why was that charge dismissed? And why was...
Hey, Big Dog DFW in the chat with the $20 donation. Thank you so much. He said, just remember, Democrats are panicking. They're going to do some crazy stuff. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but we'll win. Trump train, baby. Let's go. Hey, everybody show some love to Big Dog in the chat. You're awesome. Let's go.
Superseding indictment. Why was there a brand new grand jury? There was a whole new investigative grand jury here. That tells you that this is a new indictment. So all of this nonsense is about the Dems continuing interference with the election, beginning
100%.
with Merrick Garland, who made the decision to appoint a special counsel without the advice and consent of the Senate. And, you know, Jack Smith doesn't have the authority. So this whole thing is just a classic example of what the Democrats do to affect an election.
Jessica, you have thoughts there on your paper?
I do have thoughts on my paper, and now I'm going to have my thoughts out loud. So Trump says anything he doesn't like is election interference. That's his favorite thing to say, and I think this is largely baked in. People who think that he's a victim of...
Like, we're going to listen to her, but this is when I want to preface this before she talks. It's election interference whenever it is election interference. Whenever you literally have a rule that you're not supposed to do this, and they still do it, this is why the government is too big right now, because who's going to hold them accountable? Donald Trump is. He done said, as when I win this presidency, when I get in office, it's over. It's done. We're going to make some big changes.
The justice system and lawfare believe that, and people think that the American people have a right for him to have his day in court and to also see the evidence presented and to have people rule on that before an election where they have to give him the most important job in the world again, feel that way about it. My understanding from reading the coverage from back in March, so he was in a Florida courtroom, and Jack Smith's team were down there, and they explained that the 60-day rule or the 90-day rule doesn't apply when someone is already in the hands of the justice system, when they've already been charged, and Donald Trump has already been charged. Why they're saying that this is a, quote, slick move is because Jack Smith basically headed off what he knew would be coming if Judge Chutkan ruled on this again or said something. He went back, he kind of trimmed the fat off of the indictment based on the SCOTUS ruling, which you guys all thought was so great. So he took that under consideration, and he brought these same 4 charges again, but with it slimmed down and changing the language all over. So instead of talking about Donald Trump as president, he talks about Donald Trump as a candidate for president in 2020. Mike Pence isn't the VP anymore. He is the president of the Senate. And you're right, that new grand jury looked at it and they said, hell yeah, all 4 of those charges make sense. He should go to trial for this. He's going to be charged. It is not election interference. It is a continuation of this case, and it does not violate the 60-day rule or the 90-day rule.
Let me just say, and I'm going to interrupt here because
Right
I
here.
have to. What Jack Smith's counsel said in court, referring to this 60-day rule, he said that the 60 days relates to bringing indictments in the days leading up to an election, and is not relevant to a case that is already pending. This is a new, excuse me, this is a new indictment, which his own assistant
New
said
indictment.
tolls the 60 days.
Jesse, it feels like they're slicing the salami pretty thin to get to this.
Yeah. You can be president and a candidate, Jessica, at the same time.
Are you really arguing what he did was fine?
Correct. Correct. I'll answer for you.
Ooh,
Jack Smith's
let's
case
go.
got shredded by the Supreme Court when they ruled on presidential immunity for official acts. So all Jack did was reword the indictment and make all the official acts unofficial. That's all he did. Great analogy by Turley, if I may.
Yes, please.
And I'll make it my own because I'm from Philly. This is like a woman going to order a cheesesteak in Philly and saying, can I get the low-calorie cheesesteak? And the chef just cuts it in half, hands her the half, and charges her full price. It's
100%.
BS, Jessica, and everybody knows it. All he could have done, as Judge said, was just wait until after the election. What if he waits until after the election, Kamala wins, and then he can refile and do whatever he wants? Or Trump wins, and then he can refile and get fired. Either way, he didn't need to do it. Garland should never have let this go. It violates the spirit of the law, 60 days when we have 69 days, and the letter of the law because they're going to be voting in like 16 days.
Greg Gutfeld, do you have any wise words?
I'd like to talk for the next few minutes about the 60-day rule.
Great, that'd be great.
Basically, I tell everyone it's 60 days, don't fall in love with me.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all you
Look,
got.
I don't think we should be surprised. Think about everything that's been thrown at Trump. Okay?
Right here.
You've had petitions, you've had lawfare, you've had a nonviolent coup. There's something new. You've had nonstop media collusion. You had a cover-up of a cover-up of Joe Biden's cognitive failure. You had, 7, 8 years of calling Trump Hitler and stating rather clearly that he must be stopped and you must do everything possible to stop him. I wonder if that contributed to him getting shot. I swear, if these people could go back in time and smother Trump in the crib, they'd bring a pillow. So when you step back, you got to wonder why. It is emotional. They're not talking about any policy, no facts, just a tornado of terrified emotion. You know, there's this new petition. Do you see this, of Republican staffers? They've endorsed Harris. You know, how spontaneous is that? It's just like the 51 intel agents who planned that one. But it's the status quo. Once again, fear the one man who won't stop. And he doesn't care. So here's my plea, if I may,
Please.
Dana.
Absolutely.
If you're truly radical out there, if you're an honest-to-God rebel, okay, how can you not be in favor of Trump? They tried to arrest him.
Right here.
They tried to sue him. They tried to shoot and kill him. They changed laws to destroy him. They changed the way we voted to keep him from winning. They shamed, they targeted, they doxed, they hoaxed supporters. I mean, this is a moment you got to ask yourself, are you going to join the pirate ship or the pontoon of pansies?
As a pansy.
Like, this is huge. Like, what he just said, everything that they've done. I've got this video clip to show you because this is one of my most favorite clips of why Donald Trump is not the establishment, why they fear him. And just want to say again, thank you to everybody. Like, guys, I'm so grateful. It means so much to us that y'all bless us with these super chats. Brenda Cothers, we got Kurt Wenzel, Big Dog DFW. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are what make it happen. But this is one of my favorite clips because this right here is the truth, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Check it out. How true is that? He was the first one that came out, called everybody out. Like there was essentially like this glass ceiling that these elitists were standing on top looking down at every person and saying, we can do this, we can control this because we've got control of the, you know, the laws, the tax codes, we've got a lot of money, we can do this, and that. And then all of a sudden, what happens? He 100% calls it out, and that's why they can't stand him. That's why they've been trying to get him out since the very beginning. Why? Because he goes against them. He goes against the very people that are supposedly trying to say like they're for us and they're trying to help us and all this. And he's like, no, it's rigged. It 100% is. I use it, and guess what? If you want to change it, you've all been in office for how many years? 20, 30, Biden, 50 years, and you still haven't changed it? Why? Because there's a lot of donors, there's a lot of lobbyists that y'all really, really like that pay a lot of this, and you're not going to change it because you want to make them happy, and you get a little bit of the cut on it on the side too. So this is where, again, too, when we look at who Donald Trump is, what he represents, I feel like he represents the real American. I feel like he represents what a lot of people would want in a president. Somebody who's truthful, somebody who's real, somebody who's not going to bow down to other people, but who's going to stand up and say America first. But the game is changing, everybody. What you're about to see is literally the very same networks that were always applauding Biden, Harris, whoever, are now fighting, in a sense, on the Donald Trump side. And hey, El Prophet, thank you so much for the super chat. Everybody show some love to El Prophet. Latinos for Trump. I believe he'll fix the nonsense. Let's go. But guys, check out this video.
Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be sitting down for an interview on CNN tomorrow night. Investors are hoping to learn more about their economic plan, and joining us right now to talk more about that is Bharat Ramamurthy, who served as the deputy director of the National Economic Council under President Biden and is an informal economic advisor to the Harris for President campaign. And Bharat, thank you for being here.
Hey, Carol Young, thank you for the super chat. Everybody show Carol Young some love in the chat, guys. We are such a blessing to us. We're so thankful for y'all blessing us tonight.
I'm very glad to have you here today because there's an article on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that lays out what they say is Harris's tax policy, her plan that she'd like to put in place. And it's not very often that we get someone who kind of understands the ins and outs, who can talk us through these things. I realize that in order for some of these things to happen, it would have to mean that Kamala Harris not only won the White House, but you sweep in both houses of Congress. But let's talk through the wish list just so investors can really get their heads around some of these things. Under her plans, taxes on high-income households will go up. We've kind of known that's the plan. Top marginal rates would reach the highest point since 1986. That's 44.6% on all income versus right now you've got 23.8% on capital gains and just over 39% on wages. Why don't we talk about why you think that has to happen and what the ramifications might be?
Sure. Well, a couple points from that article that I think are worth emphasizing. Number one, for people who make under $400,000 a year, which is the vast majority of Americans, their taxes would either stay the same or go down.
That's actually not true. So we're going to fact check them right now because guess what? The Trump tax cuts expire at the end of this year. That's like $1,200, $1,300 for everybody. Do you want to give that $1,200, $1,300 to the government? Well, if Harris is in, they've already said they're not going to extend the Trump tax cuts. And think about it like this. Biden this entire time has said nobody making under $400,000 are going to see any tax increase or anything like that. Well, guess what? We've got 22% inflation because they couldn't put down the dang pen and stop spending. And that's, you know what? That's a tax on the American people.
Under the Harris plan. In fact, for 100 million Americans, they would get a tax cut under the Harris plan. As for very, very high-income Americans, you're right. There's going to be some tax increases under the plan. They're largely focused on capital income, and I think it's a common sense policy to make sure that we address the problem that we have right now, which is that for people who earn most of their income through a large investment portfolio, over the course of their lifetime, the effective rate that they pay on that is a lot lower than somebody who goes in and teaches school every day or drives a bus or works on the factory floor. I think that's unfair.
That's incorrect.
And I think most of the American people agree with that. So as we're looking for revenue to bring in to do this in a fiscally responsible way, it's a source of income, a source of revenue that makes a lot of sense.
Watch
Right,
this.
let's just talk about that. I mean, we can talk about people who have inherited wealth, and that's an entirely different story. But a lot.
What you're about to see, I love this. This is CNBC going against Harris's policies.
People who have worked their whole lives have put money into the stock market as a savings plan to make sure that they're saving money over time and allowing that to appreciate. That's money they already paid average wage taxes on, and that then goes into capital gains. Our stock market has done very well because you have capital gains taxes that are lower. It's an incentive for people to invest. if you take that away, what's the potential in terms of what it means for the market?
Again, look, this new rate would apply to a very small sliver of folks. On the capital gains side, you're looking at people who are making over $1 million each year on which this higher rate would apply. And look, I hear the same argument over and over again. You heard it when President Clinton was running, when President Obama was running, when President Biden was running.
Hey, Tina Fredette, hopefully I'm saying this right, Senesil, thank you so much for the super chat. She says, thank you for speaking and showing the truth. I've got y'all. I'm here to serve y'all. Thank you so much for supporting our channel. Y'all are so awesome. Thank you so much.
These are radical ideas that Democrats are pursuing. But if you just look at the scoreboard over that time period, out of the 51 million jobs that were created during that period, 50 million came under Democratic presidencies. And if you look at the stock market specifically, since you asked about that, the average annual return under Democratic presidencies have been higher than under Republican presidencies. So I really think this idea that Democrats are pursuing radical policies is a myth that's being perpetuated largely by very rich people who like the fact that Republicans will cut their taxes and Democrats won't.
Let me address that very point. Andrew Watts, in this Wall Street Journal story, says, and he's an associate director at the Bipartisan Policy Center, says, these would represent sea changes in how we have taxed wealthy individuals and families over the last several decades, and that's not an argument for or against them, but these are sea changes. This is not what we've seen under President Clinton or others, and a big part of that is taxing unrealized gains. Under the Harris plan, capital gains for households making at least $1 million would be taxed at ordinary income. Unrealized capital gains above $5 million per person exclusion would be taxed at death. That tax would have some exemptions for family businesses, but you are talking about taxing unrealized gains at levels that we haven't seen in the past, have never seen before.
Never seen before. And I hope, and I don't know if you know what it is, but they're questioning. Everybody's like, what are y'all talking about? Why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? Because it doesn't make any sense. If you don't know, unrealized gains are, okay, when somebody makes money, I make $100 at my job. I have to pay taxes on that. So I'm going to pay 20% taxes. I'm going to bring home 80. Well, then I've got $80 left to survive on. Well, then I'm going to give, say, $20, to go invest in the stock market. Well, that's a risk because you don't know if you're going to make money or not. You don't know if it's going to appreciate. You could lose all your money. You don't know. It's just money set aside that you hope will grow. So then money that's already been taxed on you, you take that $20, you put in the side. Well, say over a year's time, that $20 turns into $30. Well, when you realize it, you pull it out. You go ahead and take the win. So then normally you'd pay taxes on that $10 that you gained. Well, what they're saying is, hey, if you don't take it out, that $20 that turned into $30, you still got to pay taxes on that. Even though you haven't touched the money, even though you haven't pulled out. So think about this, this is huge. So imagine businesses, imagine farmers, imagine a lot of people that have investments, 401ks that go up and they're trying to save and retire. Well, all those unrealized gains, what if the market goes down the next year? That's what they're not talking about. So if it goes up this year by say $10 and I went from $20 to $30, well now, next year, what if I lose $20? Well, I still have to pay taxes on last year's $10 gain, but this year I lose it. So this makes no sense, and this is why this is so radical. What you're about to see here, this is hilarious.
All these policies would do.
First of all, those tax cuts are expiring next year anyway, so it's going to be something
and
that
it's
has
a
to be dealt
spending
with.
problem, Farad. It's 23% of GDP is being spent. It's usually about 19 or 20%, and it's the long-term average is not 20% of revenues. It's about 18%, and we're at about 17%.
Joe, I just got to disagree on. I got to point something out.
You can't disagree on actual numbers.
No, I got to say that. Yeah, spending.
He said, "Look, we've got a spending problem. We don't have a bringing in money problem. The people in Washington can't stop spending money that we don't have."
Term spending average, and Harris wants to spend more.
Here.
In what we're spending right now. So what's the long-term percentage of spending to GDP? What do you say it is?
Our spending is going, everyone knew this back in 2000, that spending would go up on programs like Social Security and Medicare because the baby boomer generation would be retiring. If we had the tax code that we had in 2000. If you look at what's called non-defense discretionary spending, which is spending other than Social Security, Medicare, and other than defense, that is actually historically low right now. So,
but overall,
the
it's
source of our
23%.
problem, because of Social Security and Medicare and so on, and then those are anticipated increases because people are retiring. Look, we're about $35 trillion in debt right now.
Yeah.
$8 trillion of that, about a quarter of it, came under the Trump presidency. And there was an article actually I saw on your own website, CNBC, last night, saying that the Trump plan would significantly increase the deficit.
Bharat, there's a big difference. There's a big difference with CNBC.com.
But
big
just to get to the point,
Okay.
the Trump plan would significantly increase the deficit a lot more than the Harris plan. So if you're out there and you're concerned about the deficit, it sounds like you guys are. It sounds like a good reason to vote for Harris.
You see that? Like, literally, everybody's questioning these radical policies. Everybody's wondering, like, what is wrong with it? Why are they trying to do this? They're trying to spend us into oblivion. They have no control over the purse. You have people that have never worked in the private sector, Tim Walz nor Kamala Harris. They don't know what it's like to hold a job. They've always worked for the government. And if anybody knows, working for the government, there's no accountability. You know why? Trump almost got shot. Guess what? Nobody's been fired. Botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Nobody got fired. The government, they don't fire people. This is the problem that we have. So just want to say thank you to everybody that is watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. If you don't mind, click the thumbs up like button. We got to give some shout outs. Tonight has been crazy. Y'all have been such a blessing tonight. Brenda Crothers, thank you so much. Kurt Wenzel, Big Dog DFW, El Prophet, Carol Young, Tina Fredette, Sinisel. Hopefully I said that right. Thank you so much for the super chat donations. It's such a blessing to my family. We're so thankful for y'all. We want to serve you every day with the top news. Remember, Monday through Friday, 2 shows a day. And then on the weekends, we do 1 show. But we want to show you things that you normally don't see. We want to show you things that won't normally show up in the mainstream media. That's why we pull things from Dan Bongino, from Tucker Carlson, from all these other shows on X, so that we get a full scope, the breaking news every single day. We're here to serve you. We love you. We thank you. And we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.